Hey guys, quick coding here with this tutorial for you. In this video I'm going to show you guys how to use and implement Firebase. Now this tool is very useful in connecting your apps to the internet and is vital for any software developer to know to be able to implement into their apps in Android Studio. Now this tutorial assumes that you know a bit about programming and you know a bit about Android Studio before you get started. Now let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you need to do is you need to go to firebase.com and you need to sign up for their service. It's completely free, and once you've done that, go ahead and go to Android Studio. We'll create a new activity. You can name it whatever you want. We're going to start with an empty activity. I'm going to name mine my application. I know, very fancy. So go ahead and hit finish. Now once that's done loading and you have your onCreate in your main activity, what you're going to have to do is you need to go to Tools and then Firebase. Now this will provide all the different types of features that Firebase has. What we're going to be focusing on in this tutorial is user authentication, just to showcase how it works. So we'll go ahead and get started. Go ahead and click authentication, do the first link, and then do step 1 and connect to Firebase. Now it's going to prompt you to sign in, and you'll need to use the same login you did to sign up for Firebase. Log in with that email, and then it's going to prompt you to create a Firebase project. Now this is different than the project that you have stored locally, but you can call it whatever you want. I recommend keeping the name of the the application that you're using. So I'm just going to keep it the same and connect to Firebase. And what this is going to do is it's going to create the Firebase application on the web. Now once you've done that, you'll see a connected sign here on the first step and a little pop-up message saying you've connected. And now the next thing we need to do is we need to add Firebase to our app. So we'll go ahead and click the second option, and it's going to ask you to add the dependencies to our Gradle. So we'll go ahead and accept changes. Now once that's done, you got the green check mark, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the Gradle scripts, and then you're going to go to the build Gradle, the one that says module app. Now once you're in there, you'll see that this is probably highlighted in yellow, depending on what version you're in. It's just saying that Firebase was added in a different version, and there's a latest version. So whatever it says, because it's bound to be updated again, just change it to the latest version. So mine says 16.2.1. Go ahead and do that. Now, this is going to give you an error, maybe. I checked this error earlier. It didn't change any build time, so we're just going to leave that in. So once you've done that, go ahead and hit sync now. Now once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and create our activity layout. So go ahead and go to res and then go to layout and activity main XML. So it already defaults to hello world. We won't need that. So we'll go ahead and just add in text and then email, drag and drop it. Password, drag and drop it, and we also need a button, so go ahead and drag and drop it. So we're gonna have to connect sides of this, otherwise it won't connect properly. It doesn't really matter where it is. This is just mainly just to showcase, but you can adjust this however you want. Just make sure they're all connected. So once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and start putting in some code. So go ahead and go to your main activity, and what you need to know about Firebase is that you can treat it like a variable. Now with all variables, you need to initialize them. So in your main activity, you don't initialize the variables up here, but you name them. So for example, if I wanted a string called email and a string name password, I'll put it up here. Keep note that you should not initialize them up here to anything, otherwise your code will not run. because the first thing that happens when we do a main activity or any activity is it goes to the onCreate, and it doesn't know to initialize yet. So keep that in mind. So what we're going to do is just start with string email and string password. And oops, I forgot to mention we have to name these fields, otherwise we won't know what to do with them. So we'll do email field. Yes. We'll do password field. For the button, we'll just call it register. I don't know why that one's uppercase, but it is now. So we also need to not initialize, but we also need to set up these edit text that we just created. Edit text, we'll call it email field. Edit text password field. And then we need the Firebase authentication. And it's going to ask you to import the class. We'll go ahead and import it. We can call it mauth. So the first thing we need to do is Firebase authentication could be treated as if it was a object. So what do I mean by that? We need to initialize the object. So what we do is we call the mauth that we made earlier, and we need to initialize it actually. So to be able to initialize it, we're going to use a singleton. If you don't know what a singleton is, it's okay. It just means we're going to initialize it, and it's going to be the only instance of that object within this class. So we'll do Firebase auth, and we'll do .getInstance. And we've just initialized it. Now we can actually manipulate the variable. We can actually call it and then do things with it. We can see that the first thing is create user with email and password, which we're going to do. But you can also check out all the different functions that it has with it. So we're gonna do create user with email and password. So now we notice that it takes two parameters. It takes two strings, and it looks like it's email and password. So it says it tries to create a new user account with the given email address and password. So let's go ahead and put it in. Now it's going to expect two strings, but we're gonna have to set that up first. So we have our button. Oops, we forgot to initialize the button. So we'll call it register, reg button. So now we can actually initialize our button, which is find view by ID, r.id. whatever we called the button, which was, I don't remember, register. And we can initialize our edit text as well the same way. So now that you've initialized all the text fields, or the edit text fields, as well as the button, what we need to do is once the button is clicked that says register, we need to take whatever is in the text fields and put it into this function. So how do we do that? Create a onClick listener with the button. So we do reg button dot set onClick listener. You do new, you do a capital O, and then you press enter, and it will automatically fill it in. And so that's the easiest way to do that. Now what this says is it's gonna wait for a button press. Now once that button's pressed, it's going to initialize any code that's inside of this. Now we'll take our string, which is email, and we have to put in what's in the email field into the string email. So we'll do email field dot get text. As you can see, it says it's found in editable. Now it doesn't really understand what this is, So you have to make sure you put toString, otherwise it'll be a bunch of garbage. That won't make sense. So do the same thing with password. Now that we've gotten the 2 strings that we need, we can go ahead and create a user. So we'll go ahead and put this function in here, and we'll give the 2 strings that it's asking for, which is email and password. Now what we can actually test our application, see if it works. So go ahead and hit run. Now once you've gotten this pulled up, we'll go ahead and put an email and password. Keep in mind that Firebase does its own type of checking to see if it's an actual email. So just make sure it looks something similar to an email. We'll call it richard@email.com. Subtype of password. Doesn't really matter what it is. We'll hit the button. To check if we've done it right, we'll go ahead and go to firebase.com. You'll go ahead and sign in and then go to console. And you should see any activity or any applications that you've made. If you just created one for this tutorial, it should show up. Mine is my application. Go ahead and continue, finish. Now you'll have some tabs open up here. Go to develop and then authentication. And it'll say set up a sign-in method. Now this is what I forgot to do before I ran the app. So we'll go ahead and set up sign-in method. You have to make sure this is enabled, otherwise it will not work. Go back to users, and now we can check if users have signed up yet. So we can go back to our phone and we'll hit the button again. Refresh the page and see if it worked. It looks like it did, so that's all there is to it to create a user and email with Firebase. So just a quick recap, what we did is we created the variables that we were going to use, we initialized them, and then we set an on-click listener for the button, and then took the text from the fields that we typed in, and then we created a user with email and password from mauth. Now, if we want to use different types of things with mauth, we can just type in mauth dot, and then we can look through all these type of different functions and figure out which one we want to use. Now, this is one way to do it. What you can do as well is go to the Google documentation. So you just type in Firebase user authentication documentation, and this could be anything having to do with Firebase. So you just go to Firebase authentication, and it helps map out everything that you need to use. Just make sure you're in the Android section. Get started with Firebase SDK. So it's going to tell you this pretty much the same things I've shown you. The only thing you just need to figure out is what is important, what do you need in your app, and try to filter out what you need. For example, this is what it kind of shows you an email and password. It doesn't necessarily tell you that you need to put these in and initialize them yourself, and that's kind of something you need to figure out. And that's kind of the flow of the documentation for Google. That will be it for this tutorial though, guys. If you have any questions, comments, please put it in the comments section. If you want me to go over something else having to do with Firebase or Android Studio, please let me know in the comments. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe. It really helps me out. Thanks and have a good day.